Make sure. Is your microphone on? Where is it on?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point, you realize you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to episode 90 of the Married into Crazy
Why do we
podcast.
always look over there?
I don't know. I always look up just to kind of look at the posters. Like, I can't believe we're really still doing this and that we're having so much fun with it.
Well, I'm Snooks.
And I'm Lovey. As I mentioned before, this is episode 90 of the Married into Crazy podcast. It's amazing that we are here 90 weeks straight. Actually, 91, but we're not going to go into that. It's a huge argument about Thanksgiving last year that Snooks just really did not. Actually, Thanksgiving 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah. But anyway, that's a whole other story. But it's so good to be back in front of the microphone. I mean, we've been in front of the microphone, but we haven't really done our podcast per se. We've been doing interviews over the last 5 weeks, our COVID couple series.
So yeah, we did 5 weeks of COVID couples. Came to an end last week. I was really sad that it ended. I actually enjoyed it a lot. And just getting to know the couples on a different level. You know, we know who they are. But as usual, a lot of times when, you interview someone, you find out different things that you did not know about them. And it's like, oh, that's really cool. So it was really good to sit and just let them tell their story. Hear each of their perspectives about how they met and what's important and, stuff like that. So.
No, you're right. And I think, like you said, letting their story develop, it's so much more interesting to hear somebody else's path. I know that we have a phenomenal story when we talk about how, first off, how we met. We were forced together. When we talk about how I ended up getting stabbed. We got stabbed. No, I got stabbed through my heart and went through the 2 open heart surgeries and all the things that ensued after that, and then going into how we recovered just to go through 4 years later. She won't even say it. She can't even say it. 4 years later, she's asking for a divorce. And then
Say it.
she's like, She doesn't even want to say it because she knows the shame. No. I earned it. But it was one of those things where we talk about all those things and we know our story and then all the things that ensued after that. But it's so cool to talk to different people around the U.S. about not just their origins and how they started and how they came together, but then we dug into how they were dealing with the pandemic.
Well, that's the good thing about, like, the interviews, too. Like you said, it's good to talk about the couples and highlight them, but this is really about how people are coming together or how this is changing their day-to-day, how it's changing their lives. Because none of us that was on the podcast or that anyone right now, unless you're over 100 years old, have lived through a pandemic. So we were doing things that we were very unorthodox, that we didn't know. No one knew, okay, should we do this? Should we not do this? Or, families being shut in and jobs being lost or, so it was really interesting. And just to see how they're dealing with their situation too,
I agree. I think the beauty of it, though, was hearing each individual and how they were each impacted differently. And yet, one of the underlying themes throughout the entire series was, even in the midst of adversity, there were some silver linings. There was some growth. There was some opportunity. There were some wonderful things that were taking place, even though there was tragedy all around them.
There were wins, I know that, I think when the COVID first started and they started doing the shelter in place and stuff, a lot of news was coming up about domestic violence and about child abuse and how people are being held captive. Just about, they're sheltering in place with the predator, someone who's hurting them, and our couples were sheltering in place, and it was safe. It was a safe place for them. It was a safe zone. So that's really what it's about. They showed how they were able to maintain and have to do new things or whatever, but no one at any point felt like, oh, I'm not safe, or I'm being hurt, or my needs are not being met, that kind of thing. Everyone adjusted pretty much.
Oh, I agree. I felt threatened several times.
Why?
Because the kids kept eating my chocolate chip cookies.
Oh,
There was never any food. It got to the point where everybody was writing their names on the food in the refrigerator.
and it didn't matter because Lovey still eats everything.
I did. I was protesting. People were out there protesting, saying they wanted to go back to work, and I wanted to. So I was protesting, saying I'm the one paying the bills, so I get to eat all the food, whatever I want. I didn't eat anything of yours.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
No.
So, but let's go. Let's go one by one. The different couples.
Mhm.
If there's certain things that we want to highlight, I think something stood out to each of us about each of these 5 couples. And I highly implore each and every one of you, if you didn't get an opportunity to listen to all 5 of the interviews, go back and listen. Please go back and listen, because there's an old saying that in every person that I meet, they're my master in some way, and of that I learn. And these couples have an incredible way of sharing their unique experiences, and we learn something new every single time we have the opportunity to sit down and do an interview via Zoom.
Yeah. So the McDaniels, they were the first couple that we interviewed in our COVID series. So that's for Vic.
Sorry, I've had a hard day. So I was eating,
Sorry. So
drinking a little whiskey.
Lovey took a sip, and we had our interview with Vic Jones from Liquor Talk. And so when he picked up his cup, that's who it reminded me of. So Vic, if you're listening, Lovey just gave you a shout out, even though he didn't say your name. So
I said it, Vic Jones. He's the sommelier of a little something over there on Liquor Talk podcast. Make sure you check him out. As a matter of fact, before we get into this, make sure you check out Hayward Crawford as well. He has the Career Pulse podcast, and it's one of those podcasts that we were invited on there as well. And he just did a re-release. So please check him out. You can find him, the financial filmmaker, Hayward Crawford, on Instagram as well as on Facebook. So
and he didn't drink, so
no, he did
big
not.
ups to Hayward.
That's why I didn't give him a sip. So anyway, but so you were talking about the McDaniels.
So one thing that stood out to me about Erica and Monte had made a comment about Jay. So Jay is the oldest daughter, and Monte came into is a blended family situation. One thing he said was that he wished that he was more intentional with Jay when she was younger. Now Jay's grown up now, and but he was like, I guess they got married when Jay Raya was 7. So he said he wished that he was more intentional with her. He wished that he had made it a point to go out and take her places or do things with her, and father-daughter type of thing or what have you. And I thought about that, and it really struck a chord with me regarding my relationship with our son. So everyone knows that, Kaylin is not my biological son. I did not give birth to him. That doesn't change anything about him. That's my son. But I never thought about, maybe I should be more intentional with him as far as, going places with him, just doing a mom and son thing. And because you did your father-daughter dates with Ashanti and Kiana when they had turned 13, it never dawned on me that maybe I could put that type of attention on him, on our son, So that kind of stayed with me a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I feel that, I received that. I also felt like I could have probably been, more intentional with Kaylin too.
It's not too late. You can still take him down the street for some ice cream.
No.
See, you're reluctant again.
No, my attention's on the grandbabies now.
But see, for me, it was a little different. I thought we got married quick
Oh yeah.
because we got engaged, 4 months after meeting each other.
Mm-hmm.
We were forced together, we were bamboozled, we were tricked into meeting each other, and she told everybody I was a nerd, not her type, and 4 months later, we got engaged. And when we were talking to the McDaniels, they had known each other for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And they drove down to the JOP and got married.
It's so funny. Okay, so ours was 4 months, and we got engaged 4 months. They got engaged. I mean, they got married after 2 years. But the something
2
that,
weeks.
I'm sorry, 2 weeks. So something very similar. Remember when we were at the Christmas party and we went and we sat down and we talked for like 3 hours, and after that, that's when I knew. So when they had went out to eat, she said they went to a restaurant or something, and
Wait, hold on. You got to listen to the story about how they went, what they drove, and how she started her car. And Monte, her husband, was like, "Oh my God, who am I in the car with? Did she steal this car?" You got to listen to the story. It's hilarious.
But the similarity between us was how they ordered their food, and she said that they sat there and they also talked for like 3 weeks. 3 weeks. What am I saying? 3 hours. They talked for like 3 hours, and then that was enough for each of them to determine that this is the person I want to be with, and so they went and they got married. Well, they snuck him out the house almost, basically.
It's like they had to spring him from the warden.
Yeah.
But it's
So
a great
funny.
story. So go back and listen to that. And it's a great episode. And I tell you, you won't regret it.
And another thing about them also is their ability to navigate through the educational system. What they did with their children is phenomenal, and it's something that I had not seen happen before. Where and you know, maybe there are people out there who have kids who graduated from college prior to graduating from high school. I didn't know anything about that. So Erica is an educator, and Monte works with what does he work with? Like probation or something like that.
This
But
is
anyway,
youth probation.
yes. So they're both very heavily involved with children or youth. But their oldest daughter, Jay, she obtained her AA prior to graduating from high school. So 1 week she got her AA, and then the next week she graduated from high school. So she was able to transfer to Spelman as a junior at 18. Now their son, who is the second oldest, only boy, Trey, he actually graduated from high school with his bachelor's. Prior to graduating from high school with his bachelor's. And, he graduated with his bachelor's in May. And this June, as a matter of fact, he's going to receive his diploma from high school. So he's going to be going to work on his master's. So, I mean, that is phenomenal. That's phenomenal.
And their youngest is...
Yeah, she's
going to be able to graduate from high school in 10th grade.
In 10th grade.
They got the formula. Check out the podcast. That's podcast number 85.
Unbelievable work that they're doing. I think that's just awesome.
And
that's just a little part of it, too, but, you know.
I was like, Snook's going to tell the whole story.
Okay.
No, then episode 86, that's when our second installment of the series, that's when we're talking to the Taylors. And the Taylors are both involved in healthcare. So they were front and center when it came to the pandemic. Mm-hmm. Both working in a hospital setting. Dr. Taylor Aisha Taylor is an OBGYN specialist. And her husband, Derek, is a cardiovascular tech or radiology technician. So he deals a lot with interventional cardiologists. So they're right there at the forefront, dealing with all the PPE or all that stuff, the masks and the face masks, and dealing with people. And they both had scares where they were being exposed. And then they have children at home. And then they have to go home and deal with it. I mean, it's really intense. But their story, before they even got there to the pandemic, you talk about somebody that is dedicated to each other, dedicated to their friendship. They had a friendship that goes all the way back to junior high school. She's been crushing on him since junior high. And he was like, I don't even like girls. We're just friends. We're just kicking it. They didn't really connect until college. They did go, well, I'm not going to tell the whole story. There was a moment in high school that you have to listen for. But they went their separate ways. They both went different directions in college. came back together and they knew. And he had a phenomenal job. And
Well, she always knew.
she always knew. Man, we're dense.
She knew when she first saw him. She's like, "That's gonna be my husband." In 7th grade,
And she said that.
that's exactly what she said. That's gonna be my husband.
And it's funny how
she loved her some him.
that she did. And he was so lost.
He was so lost. Poor Derek.
And it's funny because,
Poor Derek.
but when they connected, when the light bulb went on, it was a dimmer switch. He wasn't lost. It was a little dim at the time. But as the dimmer switch got brighter and brighter and brighter, he was dedicated. You talk about being ride or die. Derek Taylor had a phenomenal job. Packed up his bag, so that's it. We're taking our kids, and they went with Aisha so she could finish medical school.
Yes, him and Olivia.
He and Olivia went all the way to Chicago. Was it Chicago?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, it was Pennsylvania. There you go. It was Pennsylvania. And so he left a good job, went back there so she could actually finish her medical degree. He was that dedicated. And you have to ask yourself, as a spouse, not just as a man, not just as a woman, but as a spouse, when you say you're ride or die for each other, are you willing to risk it all for the other person's dream? Are you really willing to stand behind the individual that you say you love, that you took your vows with, and you're going to pack up your stuff, so you know what, I'm all in. We rise together, we fall together.
Yeah, they had just bought their house. They had just closed on escrow, and she got the acceptance letter during the process of closing escrow. And they said, "Okay, he said, let's go. Is this what you want to do?" Yes. And one thing that I think is so beautiful about them is the way that she talked about him, and like Lovey said, the way that she looked at him when she talked, and she said even when they were not together, he always made sure that she was okay. Always made sure that she was okay. Whatever she needed, he was there. I don't know if he was trying to make up for them 7 years where he wasn't paying attention.
But even then, even when they were kids, she talked about how no matter what, even all the way back to grade school,
they were friends.
And she didn't have a boyfriend or anything. He always made sure she had a Valentine's Day card.
Yeah.
Even when they weren't, he wasn't even into girls like that. He was just like into kicking it with his boys, whatever. But they were so invested in each other as friends. He made sure she was always taken care of.
Always.
To this day.
To this day, he still does that.
Until this day. It's an amazing, amazing story. And that's episode 86 with the Taylors. You have to go back and listen. I'm going to say that about every single one of these because
they were all great stories. I
absolutely.
mean, and we really, really enjoyed, I didn't think that I'd enjoy the series as much as I did, but I really enjoyed the series. I really did. We laughed, we cried. I cried. You know.
You know what's interesting to me, though, is that when Snooks and I got together, when we got married,
I cried.
I didn't know.
I was crying.
I knew of one healthy marriage. I knew of only one, period. A lot of people around me were married. My parents multiple times. And I didn't know but one healthy, exemplary relationship. And I feel so blessed to know the McDaniels, the Taylors, the Hurlings, the Kinseys, the Haynes. It's such a blessing that in the infancy of our relationship, we knew of only one. And then realistically, I got to know another one. I got to know a second one. And then I got to know a third one within my family. They started to grow around us a little bit as they got older. But then we've surrounded ourselves with people that we call our friends that have these exemplary relationships. And I implore you to go back to episode 85 through 89 and listen to these couples. Not because it's our podcast, but because there's so much to learn from these other individuals. You have to hear what they're saying and see if there's nuggets in there for you as well. And since you're going back and doing something, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, please go to Apple Podcasts. And make sure you drop a subscribe on there, subscribe to us, make sure you give us a few stars, let us know how we're doing, give us some feedback, leave a review, do all of that. But you know what? Listen to these podcasts first and then leave a review. Listen to the COVID couple series and then let us know how you enjoyed them. And base your stars off of that, and feel free to go back to anything else in the catalog.
And also we're focusing about the COVID. How you said that they were both frontliners, front run. What is that? front runners. What is the word?
I just want to see you struggle. No, they were right there on the front line.
Front line. Oh my gosh, I'm like front runners.
I told her we should have did the
Anyway.
podcast earlier before she got sleepy.
But just how they both, they made a commitment to, okay, when we come home, they changed in the garage, or they didn't enter the house. They had to make sure their kids were safe, but also the measures that they had to put in place in case something happened. You never think about
Right.
that, but they're both in healthcare, and they had to put measures in place just in case something was to happen to them. That's not you don't take that kind of thing lightly.
No.
You
When you listen to their story, I think what stood out to me was 3 words came to me. It was dedication, vulnerability, and humility. Listen to episode 86, and I hope that you get that and so much more. But then when we moved on to episode 87 with the hurling, that's when things got a little crunk, as Joy, better known as Snapper Red, would say. So there's a couple out of Atlanta. Well, let me back up.
Yeah,
There's a
they're
couple out of LA by the way of Atlanta. And the story that they tell of how they got from Atlanta all the way out to Los Angeles is A, hilarious, but B, God inspired. Because this couple, when they got together, they were like, there's nothing good going on around us. There ain't nothing but drama, and we're not doing the things that we want to do. We have aspirations for so much more. And they were thinking about, and Joy was Snapper Red. It's Snapper and Sibo. And it's the Hurlings. First names are Joy and Brian. But they were talking about how she just got accepted, or she was applying
She was
to
applying for a PhD.
for wasn't it her master's?
No,
No, was it
PhD
PhD
program.
programs? So she was applying for programs, and then they were all over. So they're like, well, let's just not limit ourselves to Georgia. Let's look around. And they really looked around. And I think she got accepted to a spot that was very, very cold. I'm not going to say what state or what city. You have to listen to the podcast. But Brian was like, I don't want to go there. And so they started thinking, where's a good place? Where will we go? Well, Snappa's brother lived out in Cali, so she was like, well, let's go out there. And Brian's like, I always wanted to go. So they came out here. He said it was just like the Clampets. They packed it up, drove cross country, and that's when all hell broke loose.
Well, what with them, I think about just how they stayed, just the faith that they even had to make that move. So she focused on, well, she didn't focus on it, but she talked about, the first thing that they did was, okay, we got to pray and fast. And at
I had to ask some questions. I was like, okay, break it down for me, because I was getting ready to start a fast. I'm like, I want to do it the right way. I want to do it the Joy way. I want to do it the Snapper Red way.
Mm-hmm.
So she had to give me a few pointers on, how she fasted, and it actually opened my eyes to fasting a little bit more than what I had known.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she, every move that they made, it was always, we need to pray, we need to fast, we need to pray, we need to fast, before they made any move. And finding them, when she said how they got the money to move out to California, how they when they got here, staying with her brother, and then moving to different spots, and some of the trials that they went through, it was always, though, it was a story of perseverance. They persevered in every aspect of, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that, okay, we need to do this, and finding out what they did good, what they did well, I should say. So Sibo made a comment, and he said that basically it was like an aha moment, or not so much an aha moment, but it came to them that when they work together, what they're doing together is what's making the difference, is how they are. It's not, nothing against their individual projects, but when they work together. And he said, so he was like, God was saying, he was thinking, this is what God must want us to do, So he, they have their, what do we call them, their YouTube royalty or something.
Right, they're
like
YouTube
that.
royalties. So these two are blowing it up on YouTube.
Yeah.
If you go on YouTube and you take a look at Sibo and Snappa, they have a channel where they do reaction videos.
Mm-hmm.
And they have some of their videos that got tens of thousands of people that are chiming in and responding to them. And they're hilarious. They do reaction videos to music. They do it to comedy. They do it to TV shows.
Yeah, she said they incorporated sports.
Yep, they got sports. They got just anything you can just about imagine. And now they have so many followers that followers are asking, hey, can you go watch this show and do a reaction to it, you know? And they say that if there's something that they haven't done before, they're not exposed to, they'll do it just so that way they can give their honest reactions right there on YouTube. And a phenomenal couple, and they have other channels too. Snapper Red has a channel for kids because she's heavily involved in education. So there's one that she does, and it's about motivation and getting kids to really have a higher level of, I guess, of self-awareness, self-consciousness, super positive stuff. And I know Sibo was talking about, he has one of those channels where it's auditory stimulation, like chewing ice and
what's in the water? Is it some
dripping water? They got all these different
ice melt
sounds.
or something like that? And actually, that channel came out of the COVID, being home quarantined. So he started that since then. But you know, they're just really dedicated to each other and to their craft. And you know, she's a female rapper, and he supports her in everything that she does. She was talking about how she wanted to go back and he actually brought it up and said she wanted to go back and do the music. So he's, you know, managing or whatever, but at every turn they're in it together, you know, and they're just in it
together, and they're really trying to really focus and like you said earlier, they come together and they found that when they really advance in life, it's because of what they're doing together. And I think that was a beautiful thing to talk about because
and they're funny as all get up.
They're hilarious.
My goodness.
They're absolutely hilarious. So definitely give them a check out. Go to their YouTube channel. Look up Sibo. That's CBOW.
Country Boy.
And it stands for Country Boy Out West. So it's Sibo and Snappa Red. So look up Sibo and Snappa. And again, CBOW and Snappa. SNAPPA. Check them out. And then our fourth in the series was the Kinseys. This was a surprise. This was a lot of fun. I know they were going to be interesting. I've known Erica Kinsey. Her maiden name is Erica West. I've known Erica since she was a little girl because we were kids together. She's, you know, a number of years behind me, but I grew up with her cousins. She has a very large family. I grew up wanting to... it's funny, I used to grow up lying. I used to lie and say that her uncles were my brothers. I really did.
That's funny.
So it is because like her mother's brothers, I idolized them as I was growing up. One in particular, Brucey Slaughter. Bruce was like everything when I was a little kid. When I was in 5th, 6th grade, that dude was my hero. It was like, you know, if Jordan had been around back then, it'd been like, who? Michael who? Man, have you seen Bruce Slaughter? You ain't seen nothing till you see Brucey. Man, that was my dude. Anyway, but she's really had a really storied past as far as coming from a very well-known family and then kind of going her own path, finding her own way. And the story of her and her husband coming together and what they were doing. They had a child at an early age, went separate ways.
Yeah, they met in high school. They were together in high school, I believe. And then, like you said, they had a child and went their own separate ways. And so their oldest is so funny. Their oldest is like 30, and they've been married since 2014. I was like, wow, okay.
I'm saying doing the math like, wait.
Yeah. But, you know, their story to me, it's a story of redemption, you know, of not always going the
Can you quit hitting the microphone?
Sorry, people. Not always going the statement that she made. She said, you know, she went a different route, a route that probably her family didn't want her to go, you know, but being able to get back on what we'll just say the straight and narrow, you know, their love for each other, you know, they were able to come back together, and they said, and so they repeated it over and over again, how the love of the Lord, you know, how they love the Lord and how He's the head of their life, and how they're not ashamed to say, you know, they love Him more than they love each other.
And that was powerful.
Yeah, that was
I was
I
so
was
proud.
very-
I was a stopping moment. We were like, ooh, okay, we got some growing to do. And it's a beautiful thing because every time they talked about, I mean, you could hear the genuine joy in Carl's voice when he talked about his wife. And the joy in her, there was such a pride that they had in each other. And this is a couple that broke up, went their separate ways, had children elsewhere, and then their combined child, the child that they had together, was a freshman in high school when they got back together again.
Yeah. She at a basketball game
And
or something like that.
he went to go watch her. And the next thing you know, it was like, why did we break up again? Why do we? No, but it was fun. You have to hear a story. There's some life-changing moments they both share in there that are just compelling and straight out of a movie.
Yeah, but it also sets a tone for just not giving up and persevering and just moving forward and keeping it going. And one thing she said, like she talked about going a different route. It's like God, we never know what the Lord has in store for us, But when we're obedient to His word and His way, and how He brings everything back full circle, and you just reap all the benefits when you're obedient. And then Carl talked about the river.
Oh man, he was talking about the river, just the different paths they've taken in their lives. And he was talking about even though you sit there and you might go a different direction, there's all these twists and turns. He says if you look at the ocean is this life-giving body of water, and yet all the streams, all the lakes, all a lot of the riverbeds that are out there all lead back to that main source of water, the main body of water. And he says, so even though that they breathe life into each other now, like an ocean, he said all the paths that they had taken prior to coming back together again were these bodies of water that were separate, but it was all flowing back to life.
Everything came full circle.
It was beautiful. It was
Everything
absolutely
came
beautiful.
Full circle. Everything
Story of
came full
redemption,
circle.
indeed. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that one again. I'm getting chills. And then the last couple that we spoke with, it was a professional basketball player and his wife, and they both. And it's like, oh, she's just a housewife. No, she was a baller too.
Yeah.
And it was funny. She had us cracking up because she was talking about how when they met in college, that all these little females were chasing after him, and she was like, look at these little silly females. You got to listen to it because when they met, it was one of those things where it's hilarious, but again, it was meant to be. And spoiler alert, this couple is the young lady. They're my cousins. Okay, so cheat code. They're my family, but we had them on not because they're family, but because their story is relatively amazing. And when I mentioned before that growing up, I'd only had one healthy marriage relationship period that I had ever been able to actually watch and view and model after. It was their mother. It was my auntie and my uncle.
So her dad is Uncle Johnny, and we referenced him before. Uncle Johnny passed away in 2014. I'm sorry, 2004, I believe it was. But like Lovey said, it was something about them when I first met them. I mean, I went over there. We went to go pick Kaylin up, and that was my first time meeting them. But the aura that was there, it was just something there. And I sat back. They didn't do anything special. It wasn't like they turned flips for me or, bought me flowers or anything. It was just that feeling that I had. And I looked and I was just kind of observing, and I was like, this is how we going to be.
Oh, absolutely.
That's how we, and I never said that to him. I told him years later, but I knew that we were going to have that kind of love. Well, that's that kind of family. That's going to be us. And
well, I know Uncle Johnny is smiling down on them because they are exemplifying that type of relationship that they have. They are modeling what was modeled for them. And it doesn't come without a price to pay because, again, I mentioned that Aaron's a professional basketball player. He had a scholarship to a college. They met in junior college. He went away to play ball. That's where their journey as a couple began because they were separated. They had to have a long-distance relationship. And then that long-distance relationship went from being a multi-state relationship to being an international relationship because he had traveled to he had played basketball in at least 8 or 9 different countries.
Yeah, and he's been playing for 16 years.
16
That's
years.
a long time.
So for
16
at least
years.
for 18 years, they've been participating
Yeah.
in a long distance relationship for 18 years.
Yeah.
2 years in college and the last 16 professionally. And he's been Mr. Korean Basketball League
Yeah.
for the last 12.
At least.
I can't remember how many seasons he said he played there, but it seems like forever. But multiple championships, multiple MVPs, just an amazing individual. But they talked about the challenges that they experienced. The loss of trust, the rebuilding of trust, the putting family first, the things that they do it's uncomfortable to them.
Yeah, how the sacrifices of, because he is in a different country, and you talk about the time change, and so instead of, when it's time for her to go to bed, she waits for him to get home from practice or what have you, so that they can talk. And when he needs to go to sleep, he waits in the morning. It's morning here, so he's waiting. He's talking to their son while she's getting dressed, and so AJ takes the phone to Kara, and they have Aaron and Kara have their little time together, So it's about sacrificing. It's about making things work. And he kept reiterating that you can do anything that you put your mind to. He kept saying that. I knew that it wasn't gonna be that hard, because I had already said that she's gonna be who I'm gonna be with. I know that we can make it work. It's not impossible. It's not impossible. So that was his mantra, basically. We're gonna make it work. We're gonna be together. It's not gonna be impossible. It's gonna be hard, but we can get through it. So,
well, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that's a great way to end this, because when you take a look at it, you say nothing is impossible. You have to realize that when you talk about marriage and relationships, they're hard, they're fun, they're amazing, they're trying, they're difficult, they're all the above. And just when you think it's impossible, you have to realize that, I know it's kind of a played out analogy or acronym, or what you call it, but it's a play on words. Amalgagram or something like that. I'm butchering it, but if you sit there and you take impossible and then you rearrange it, the first two letters are I-M. You put an apostrophe in there and you say I'm possible instead of impossible. And that's what marriage is. Marriage is possible. A healthy marriage is possible, but it takes work. It takes commitment. It takes dedication. All the things that we just highlighted in all these different couples. It takes having a heart of service like the McDaniels that they have for each other and for their children. It takes having dedication, vulnerability, and humility like the Taylors exhibited. It takes, a rediscovery and a commitment to each other to move all the way across country to discover yourselves. With the Kinseys, there's an air of redemption in every single relationship, because we falter, we let each other down, and then we build each other back up again. So there's redemption that happens in every single one of our relationships. And then when you look at the last relationship, like with the Haynes, there's forgiveness, there is trust, there is love, and then there is that perseverance that goes along with relationships as well, particularly marriage. So go back and listen. This is episode 90. We're so happy to be here with you. Our story is one of all the above.
Yeah.
And it's not done yet.
Yeah. Each one of the couples, they were just, the relationships and the people at heart, just beautiful couples, just beautiful people. You could really see the love. You could hear the love in their voices. It was, being able to watch their faces and the way they interact with each other. It was just real. And, they all were very transparent in what they were saying. No one tried to put on airs or try to be a certain type of way. They were very open. They were very honest. And I really like that. And I really appreciate that too, because a lot of times people, they want to be perceived as a certain type of way, but they're like, no, we're just going to be fully transparent, and this is us,
What you see is what you get.
What you see is what you get.
And it was fun. It was so much fun. You can hear the joy in everybody's voice.
Yeah,
and
it was a lot of fun.
we were cracking each other up and calling each other out. It was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, we definitely did that. It was so much fun.
It was a good time. So,
Yeah.
Stay tuned, because there's potentially going to be a reunion dinner. We're thinking, the ones that are able to actually make it to our house, we're thinking about that particular group having some individuals, because 3 of them were in the Sacramento area. So Was it 4?
It's 4.
Oh, there was another couple that was going to be on, but because of the pandemic,
Oh, yeah.
crazy enough, and because stuff that was going on, and then they ended up having a loss in the family right when they were supposed to have an interview, and so we had to pivot for that last couple. But I'll tell you what, we are coming up quickly on episode 100, and we want to do something special. We have some ideas, but we want to hear what your ideas are. What do you think we should do for episode 100 of the Married Into Crazy podcast? So please go to snooksandlovey@gmail.com or go to our website, marriedintocrazy.com, and go ahead and send us an email there. You can go to our Facebook page, you can go to IG, but let us know. Everything is Married Into Crazy. So go there, let us know what you think. Give us some suggestions, some recommendations. We'll take it into consideration. We're not saying we're going to do what you say. But, yeah, so you guys should go streaking through the neighborhood screaming 100. No, that's not happening.
Yeah, I don't think they would say that though.
I don't know. I have this flash of Will Ferrell. Come on. But
But also tell them about the workshop.
so there is going to be a workshop for those individuals. It's a little short notice. We have some attendance already, but if you go to our website, marriedintocrazy.com, and then go to our coaching tab, we are putting on a virtual communication workshop for couples. For couples, whether you're married, so it could be for premarital, it could be for married. If you're not a couple anymore, but you just want to work on your communication game, go to our website, go to the coaching tab, scroll down, and you'll see the Married Into Crazy communication workshop. Click on that, and then you'll be able to take the DISC assessment. It's the Married Into Crazy Extreme Execution DISC assessment. You'll take that, and what we're going to do is go into what crazy means. You know, if you go to our website, that crazy stands for
Compassion,
real,
accountable,
zealous,
yielding.
yielding. She looks at me like, why are you pointing at me? So, and we're going to go into, there's some biblical standpoints or some biblical structure behind each one of those. So we're going to go into that in our workshop, and then we're going to pivot over into giving a brief overview of the DISC assessment. We're not going to go into everybody's individually, but what we will do is give you some firepower to where you can start to build a better lines of communication with each other or prepare for that next relationship. So go to the website, check it out. I am going to be closing registration on Friday at 6 p.m. So that way we can make sure that we're completely prepared. But please, if you're interested, go to our website, check that out. And so now we have to do our traditional.
Oh, I can reach it.
She's looking like,
Just reach all over me.
because you wasn't in there.
You didn't say
We got to do the I Can for couples. And there will be prizes at the workshop where we'll be giving away maybe 1 or 2 of the I Can for couples. And we'll be sending them out, no charge to you. You just got to participate. So, for the fellas, I can love my partner unconditionally.
For the ladies, I can admit when I was wrong.
I'm glad I didn't get that one.
What are you trying to say? You'll never admit it?
I didn't say never. Never, 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 never. Never, ever. Never, never, ever, 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 ever.
Lovey will admit if he's wrong, except for when he's eating your food.
Because technically it's still my food if I pay for it. I'm just saying. So look, until the next time,
So
as
my money
always.
doesn't count? My money doesn't count?
Your money counts. That's ours. We're in California. 50% of what you got is mine, and likewise, as you keep telling me. So, until the next time, be blessed.
Bye-bye.